friendly neighbourhood gardener Dom here. I feel like I should be a superhero and have a cape. Yeah, so guys, we've been doing much more in these workshops. We've been doing some, what have we been doing? We've made the pots out of newspaper and toilet tubes. They'll come in super handy in this session or this video. We've been memories. We've been doing making some cloches. We have been bit fat cakes, but I'm looking back in the box here just to kind of remind myself. So we've been sprouting in jars, and we've been making fat cakes of birds and whatnot. So yeah, today guys, that's how you drop that. So yeah, there's videos on the Facebook group, there's videos on the links and whatnot, on the YouTube channel, which we'll kind of put up like refresh. So if you just want to catch up on that, feel free to have a look over those. And just, it's basically what we're doing in the sessions, but a kind of video catch up as a one-on-one instruction if you've missed the session, so you can kind of follow these instructions. Yeah, so today guys, we're going to be propagating our seedlings at home, pretty much using a lot of the rest of the box that we've got going on. And yeah, this is kind of going to be the main part for us growing this season, and making sure those seedlings are prepped, all kind of ready in the trays to start germinating, that we can transfer, prick out, or transplant into the grounds if you're doing it at home, or into bigger pots if you're doing it at home, or bring it down to the garden with us and we'll kind of have a massive growing space. So today, yeah, we're going to be looking into this one. Am I right? Yeah, this one. Propagating at home. We've got a few, I think different people got different seeds. I know that we have carrots, definitely, the theme of the garden. No, purple one, maybe purple ones, who knows. We have kohlrabi, we've got cabbage, we've got, I think there's might be some parsnips in there, some cress more for a windowsill growing at home. What else have we got? Peas. I think we'll have pea shoots. Yeah, so this is going to be a kind of probably a longish one. Just the different techniques you can use for windowsill growing and propagating at home, getting ready to plant out, and yeah, germinating some seeds and some windowsill salads and some windowsill like cress and pea shoots and pea plants. That'll come into the garden or down a biker kitchen garden, or that thing, yeah. So yeah, I'll do as always, grab yourself a cuppa, grab yourself a cuppa, and then we'll angle the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. And yeah, let's get started. Godful, and see you soon. Okay then, so what we've got guys is I've got some bits and bobs dotted around here. I'm gonna take you through a few of the different things to plant, things that we've sent you out there. If you're planning on planting by yourself or from your own back by buying packs of seeds or your own seed trays, yeah, go for that. And you can always kind of ask us on the group or ask us just maybe on the comments on the video or something like that if you need any help propagating or any advice on starting certain seedlings. But first of all, we will be using, so we're doing the propagating at home. There's quite a few things on here, and again I'll leave that up in case you want to screenshot it if you haven't been sent off the kits or if you're wanting to do this off your own back. So what we've got is I tend to go to like nurseries or garden centres rather than shops. I just find it a lot more cheaper. I think they've got especially with things like pots, they sometimes have an excess of pots and seed trays. So I think I picked up these 3 seed trays for like 20 pence each maybe, and pots for a similar price if not less. They're always good to have. The advantage is that you can start quite small. I think the seed trays are great for the kind of the veg that you'd be thinning out, like and the fast growing veg like lettuce or radishes, or maybe like beetroot might be good to start in there. So you've got, and then the pots are great for the likes of peas, your kohlrabis if you're doing that. parsnips, turnips, anything kind of rooty. Carrots can be quite good to start in these as well, but we're going to be using a different technique with the carrots. But there's no kind of right and wrong in doing this. The shallower trays just mean that it's kind of, you can have things that grow up or have more of the leafy greens, whereas more root veg can get started in said pots. What will come in handy, I think we had a video of it before. Did I? If I didn't, then I'll do one. Making these newspaper pots and using toilet roll tubes. The good thing about these is, or the great thing about these is that once you put them into the ground, you don't disturb the roots. Because it's decomposable, it decomposes in the ground over time. You don't need to kind of transplant, you don't need to like move or disrupt any of the growth that's going on. It can literally just dig a hole the size of this, plug it inside of the ground, and that'll rot away over time, give a bit of nutrients to extra nutrients to the soil and the plant itself and the roots, and yeah, it's pretty great. But it swings and roundabouts. You can transplant from these pots. I think it's a more kind of common thing to do, and they last a lot longer. And yeah, you can keep these aside. So what we're going to be doing first, carrots. Yeah, we'll do carrots first. So these are quite good to do in individual pots. It's thinly sown over and then covered into the soil, and then covered with a couple of millimeters of thin, maybe sieved soil. So if you've got a sieve, that's great. If not, you can just break the soil up in your hand just so there's no chunks, and the seedling can kind of pop through. Hopefully as well, guys, over the next couple of weeks the sun's going to come out and we can start doing these outside, so you can see and have more of an idea of transplant and stuff like that. So yeah, what we're going to do from this lovely checklist sheet are the how-to guides that we have provided you. We're going to do some carrots starting off, and that's from this guy. This is a Tetra Pak, which is just kind of, it was an old juice carton, and these are great. The wonderful things to grow in. All you need to do is kind of cut off the top, and then yeah, that's got your growing space and ideal size. You don't need to plant them out, so this can live on the windowsill. Get 3 or 4 carrots, maybe 5 if you're feeling daring from this, and then you just pluck it out, and then that's you done. It doesn't even go into the ground. So what you're going to need is just a pair of scissors and a little bit of fiddly hand maneuverability, dexterity. Yeah, so just peel this open simply like this. This is when it won't work. Yeah, it doesn't need to be neat on the top because we're going to discard the top of it. And if you want to just follow the crease line, so cut that all the way down and then all the way around. And that's going to be our growing space for our carrots. Hopefully, so you won't get giant carrots with this, but you might get them big enough to kind of to be that deep. So I'm just going to quickly rinse this off, and while I'm doing this, you'll need your compost and sand mix, and you will need your carrot seeds. So catch you in 2. Okay, so what we've got is we've got our Tetra Pak nicely cut out and rinsed. What we do need to do is obviously get a bit of water out, but we do need to get a bit of some drainage in here. So I'm just using a nail, a pin would work, and you're just piercing some holes into the bottom. Right on a fold there, not fancying it. Okay, not loads. You don't need to kind of fill. God, that's not going in at all. Fill the place with holes, just enough to kind of make for a really good drainage system. That's not going. Get a hammer if you need it. Okay, so we've got some holes in there in the bottom. Can you see? There we go. So what we're going to be using is we're going to be using a mixture between 50% sand and 50% compost, just because the these carrots want to get as much nutrients as possible, and if you're draining it from its nutrients, it'll more than likely go further down to search for the nutrients. So half of soil to compost. Don't have half soil, like half soil and half sand or vice versa. Mix it all together into a nice bag, which I have lovely here, or into like a bowl or something before you transfer it in. So you've got your holes in your bottom, and what we're going to do is I'm going to go this way, and you're just going to fill as much as you can into this this Tetra Pak. You know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to speed this up. I'm just going to cut this down a bit further, just so you can see what I'm doing, as we have my example on the windowsill, with already carrots starting germinating. So I'll quickly cut this down. Right, so I've got kind of about 2/3 of the way up with some compost and some soil, or some sand and compost. Compost and soil is pretty much the same thing. So there we go. That's our first step to fill that. Now, before we get on to the next step of planting, I just want to kind of give this this mixture a bit of a water, just to get some kind of moisture in there. So with our trusty watering can thing we've got going on, just give it a good water, just so all of the soil and mixture is nice and moist, nice and moist, just so the plants can start to germinate quite nicely in there. So we have carrots in your kit. If you buy them from a like a seed shop, you can get them from pretty much most supermarkets now. I know we don't do the whole naming shops, so it rhymes with Bilkinsons or Bilkos. So you can get them from there, which is quite cheap, quite good. But any kind of garden shop, any supermarket usually do them. I know I tend to go to Maldi and Biddle to get some. Biddle's quite good because it's quite cheap. But covering up the name. So you've got your seed packet. These are your best mates. These can they tell you everything about this this plant or this vegetable, how it grows, when it should be sown indoors, when it should be transplanted outdoors, when it's ready to harvest, how to take care of them, everything you need to know. So keep these guys. I've just got like a big bag of old seeds that if I come across some new seeds, I know kind of how this should work by going off the seed packets. So what we've got is use some carrots, and I'm gonna hope for I'm gonna try 5 in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna double up on seeds, and just to give it that extra kind of chance to grow, and if one doesn't grow, then the other might be able to kind of use it as kind of nutrients and things like that. So choose about 6 seeds. So I'm gonna do 2 at a time, and I'm just gonna round about each corner, a couple of centimetres in. I'm going to put 2 seeds in each part. 1, 2, so it should be 10 overall. 3, 1 in the middle, 4 and 5. So we've got them in there, if you can see. Now the last bit we want to do is we just want to cover this with a real light, a bit of soil and sand mix. Just so, a rogue seed in there, just so it can cover and it can break through the soil growing up. So yeah, got that nicely in there. Now, because I'm using a smaller one, I'm going to transplant these. So simply, if I was going to transplant them, I would put them in the ground and I'd slit 2 sides, on all sides, and then just lift it up and maybe cut off the bottom, and then that will be minimal disturbance towards the roots. So that's that, and give it a little pat down and a water, and this can go onto your windowsill. Now, because it's got holes in the bottom for the drainage, you might want to stick it on a plate or a kind of old plastic like tray of sorts, just so the water doesn't soak through and kind of ruin your lovely windowsill. Has this done anything? Not yet. Okay, so next one we're going to move on to is pea shoots and the kind of leafy greens that can go into a tray. So yeah, if you've got a tray for like an old kind of takeaway tray, you can just use that. Remember to pierce holes in the bottom. Seed trays might be great, or yeah, old punnets boxes from strawberries or fresh berries is a great thing to use. So let's get into doing that, and yeah, next step. Bye. Okay guys, so we have carrots done, root vegetables. So if they're going down into the ground and they are root vegetables, it's usually quite good to use a kind of drain some nutrients from them by using some sand to kind of get them started to propagate and to live in. So much like turnips will go down underground, carrots, swedes, things like that parsnips, they kind of go really well with sandy compost. Step one done. Next we're going to move on to some leafy greens, which is going to be done in a seed tray. I'm not going to use the bigger seed trays. That's going to be for kind of mass things a bit later on. So what this is, it's literally, I think it's like an old pasta. Let's see what the back says. Fresh pasta tortellini with something filling, cheese filling. Very healthy, I know. So yeah, so we've got this. I've off camera, I used a hammer to nail some holes in, because after last escapades of it not going through, didn't want to make a fool of myself on the camera trying to pierce this. So I already did. So what we need now is we've got our tray, and we're going to need some compost, and we're going to need something to grow some leafy greens. Add your spinach really fast. These can kind of propagate anywhere between, it'll be starting to see some life from it. I think it's 10 weeks it should be able to be harvested, maybe 10 weeks. They should be ready to go in about 10 weeks, but you can pick small bits off as you go. And they're great because they just kind of, they keep going. As soon as you've kind of harvested a bit, you can leave some of it in and it grows leaves back, which is class. Good for a windowsill thing. So what we need is, we need the compost. This is the one without sand in because the leaves are growing up. It doesn't need that. We use quite a shallow dish as well because it doesn't need that much root space, because a lot of the produce comes from above the ground. So this works with most leafy greens. So that's your lettuce, cabbages can be started off in here. Spinach, chard, really good. I know a lot of you like the chard from the garden. Kale, always really good to do it this way as well. And kale's great because it's quite hardy and it'll last throughout the colder weather. So simply what we're going to do with this is, it's straightforward. Empty your compost into your seed tray, leaving a gap at the top. Obviously you put the holes in so the drainage is there, saving some to sprinkle over the top. Now I guess we'll do 3 techniques while we're here. So we're just kind of sprinkled over the top on the first one, and lightly sowed. This one I think we'll do some drills, and the last one I think we'll do some holes. That makes sense, doesn't it? So drills is basically a trench. A trench, if you're going to do it in the ground, what I tend to use just the kind of the flat of my hand, just to doof, usually about 10-15 centimeters apart. But since we're working on smaller scale, I'll just use my little finger to make a little trench. So you don't need any extra saw for this, because you use the saw that's already there just to pat it down. So if you've made 2 trenches, as you can see, and as I said, back to the seed packets, your best mate. I'll show you that close up. They've made some trenches, huzzah! So as before, spinach, really good for your massive amounts of iron. Make strong, like Popeye, I think that's spinach, yeah. Yeah, so as always, go from packet to hand. and I'm going to go a bit overkill on this and get quite a few, because I want kind of as much growth as possible. So you just simply sow in the seeds in a line in each drill or trench. Couldn't be a bit closer together. These things genuinely want to grow and sprout, so it shouldn't take too long to get them in there. So each drill, each trench, I would count the seeds. There's about, maybe in this small thing, 10 to 15 seeds in each drill. Okay, see what we have there. And simply, as you would do if you were doing it in the ground, you'd kind of mound it over it, but very delicately just cover the seeds with your compost, lovely jubbly, and that should be ready to go. Yeah, can you see any there? No, so that's us. So again, using our trusty automated watering can, make sure we've got the right bits. Give the soil a good bit of moisture. Think like it's raining, and that's good to go. I would have, if you're going to do it into the ground, make sure the soil isn't dry before you put it in. Just a bit of moisture, so maybe a watering can or a quick run over with a hose, just to kind of loosen up the soil and give it some moisture, and then do it this way. So step 2, leafy greens done. Let's check this. So yeah, this can be done with your pea shoots. This can be done with watercress, lettuce, spinach. Like I say, anything that grows up, and that's when the germination process can start, because we don't need that much to worry about the roots. So number 3, I may as well do it while I'm here. I've used these. Okay, this is an old egg cup. I'm going to plant some, I think I'll do the kohlrabi in here maybe. Yeah, and I'll do my nasturtiums in a pot, or one of the homemade pots, if I've got enough compost left. I think I do. Okay, so get this aside. Or shall I do turnips? I'll stick with this. I'll do some kohlrabi and some Swedes, as they're quite similar. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do half and half. So 2, 4, 6 kohlrabi and 6 Swedes. So milk cartons. These aren't milk cartons at all. These are egg cartons. Egg cartons are great. Again, with the compost, or because they're compostable, then these kind of will deteriorate over time. You can stick them just into the ground as they are. I've seen a few videos of people doing beetroots in here, where they just leave them to grow, and as this rots away, they can stick them in the ground, and they're just kind of, by the time they've started to ready or been planted into the ground, they have basically just become ready for this to decompose. So it's a great thing to have. Save your egg cartons, and also if you want to save the lids, that's a seed tray for you. Good start. So yeah, I'm just going to do exactly the same thing, but we're going to be using holes. So let's fill up each part of the egg carton. I might speed this up. Okay, there we go. So that's our start of the pot. The planting. Where's the kohlrabi? Where did I put it? Right. So we'll start with the kohlrabi. These will tell you to kind of you can either use drills or you can use holes. Because we're using a smaller space, we're going to use the drills. No, we're not. We're going to be using the holes. So yeah, simply, and like putting it in the ground, I'm going to put 2 to each plot, just to give it that extra chance to grow. So you're simply just going to make a tiny little hole in each of these, if you can see. Okay, and I'm just simply going to sprinkle two of the kohlrabi seeds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, It's as if they did it by chance, or by they knew I was going to do it in sixes. So there's one left over. Okay, so what we have is the holes, and we'll do the same with these Swedes. So what? Hole, 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 hole. And this works in both the ground and in the packet inside of the packet, and in trays. So yeah, similar thing. I'm going to do, and I'll speed this bit up. Okay, so once you've got all the planted in the holes, again, you're just going to simply move the soil to refill that hole so that it can burst through and it gets the nutrients to cover it, and the shoot should come through. Make sure you don't have a big lump or a stick above where the seed had been planted, just because it'll be a bit more difficult for it to break through. So yeah, we have watering, as always, give it a good soak, and that goes on your windowsill. Right, finally, flowers in so we'll try nasturtiums. Huge seeds, you can kind of tell the difference between those and other seeds. So I'm going to do it in my little pot here. And nasturtiums grow massive, they kind of take over, which is a good thing because they'll attract the bees and wildlife. They taste great, they've got an edible flower, and pretty much all of it's edible. So I'm going to stick 2 in here. So I've half filled that, I've 2/3 filled it, stuck a nasturtium on the top, and then 2 seeds there. So I was just realised that I was talking for quite a while, and the iPad had ran out of memory and it cut off. So what I did was, where was I? I planted the seeds, just cover it up with a little bit of little soil over the top, making sure that's all covered up. Can I get in there? Can. Cover it all up, and then you're going to water it. I'm not going to water it again because I just have. I don't want it too wet because it might seep through. So yeah, and that's nasturtiums in your pot. Like I say, you don't need to transplant these. You don't need to get rid of this. This can go straight in the ground when they've started to germinate. So we have carrots, root veg. We've got leafy greens, and we've got some Swedes and some kohlrabi. So yeah, that's it. If you've got any questions about the what you want to grow, I know we've got a big list on the Facebook group of things for people to grow at home. Ask if you need a hand growing it. Like I said, the seed packets are your best friends. They'll tell you how to do it. If you want a video to help with individual plants, I can do that. But usually it's like a sandy compost for root veg. We've got shallow dish to start, a shallow tray to start leafy greens, and then these egg pots will be great to do things like sweets and stuff like that. Yeah, so great as always speaking here, and I will catch you very soon in the garden and for the next video, which will be, I think we're doing seed bombs. Exciting. Right, catch you soon, guys, and all my best. Get growing. Bye.